Arayes are a popular Middle Eastern street food made by stuffing lamb into a pita, cooking the meat inside the pita, and it's a snack I had never seen before. Then a popular New York City restaurant, 12 Chairs, started making them. New York City went crazy and it caught my attention. It's an amazing snack you need to be making, and we're gonna learn how to make it right now. First thing we gotta do is grate some onion and then drain that excess moisture out. So I'm just gonna take my onion, I'm gonna cut through the top and then kind of just fold off and peel that paper back as you cut through the other side. Then you can just easily remove the paper. Now you can do this on some parchment paper, or you can kind of just do it right into the bowl. You just grate the onion. Now I'm just gonna press all that juice out the onion with a little slotted spoon. Now into this food processor bowl, we're gonna build the spice mixture for our lamb. In with the onions. Next up, I've got 3 cloves of garlic. I'm just gonna grate those onto a microplane in there. And now the food processor is not necessarily for the onions and the garlic, it's for everything else and to combine it all. You guys, why are you grating it into a food processor? I just wanna make sure that it's nicely minced up into the mixture, and the food processor might not get it there. Next up, I don't know, about a 1/4 cup of parsley. Just gonna pinch off something like that, straight in. And then roughly an equal amount of fresh cilantro. Then here come the spices. First up for color, we've got some paprika. About a 1/2 tablespoon of that. Then a 1/2 tablespoon of onion powder, 1/2 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of ground cumin, 1/2 teaspoon ground coriander, 1/2 tablespoon of ground sumac, a little cayenne for some heat, and then some za'atar. It's just a Middle Eastern spice blend. You can find them a few ways. This is oregano, sesame seed, sumac, and salt, I believe. 1/2 teaspoon of that. Also gonna use a little bit of this for garnish later. Next up, we've got some harissa, which is a chili paste popular in North Africa and the Middle East. Kind of like a hot sauce vibe. Maybe 1 to 2 tablespoons of that. Also gonna use this for garnish later as well. And then a specialty ingredient, if you can find it, otherwise you can omit it, but it's pomegranate syrup. Sometimes they throw a little bit of this in. Maybe like a 1/2 tablespoon. Then I'm gonna hit it with some salt. And then we can process that mixture into a fine chop. You may need to scrape the sides a few times to get everything chopped up evenly and incorporated. And then we can add the ground lamb. You can use beef as well, but lamb is kind of traditional in this recipe. Get that into the food processor. Process it until that spice mixture is nicely distributed throughout the lamb to form somewhat of a lamb sausage. And then we can cover it, and then we'll pop this in the fridge and let this marinate as long as we can. Next up, we're gonna make our tahini sauce. That's gonna be like a little dip to go with our Arayes. And starts with tahini sauce, which is basically just like a peanut butter made out of sesame seeds. I'm gonna add some of that to the bowl. And to that, we're gonna add a couple tablespoons of some regular old yogurt. This is a nice sheep's milk yogurt. Then we're gonna stir it together. And what you'll notice when you mix it together is that it'll thicken up pretty tightly. So to thin it back out, I'm gonna cut about a 1/2 lemon, squeeze that in. That acidity is gonna balance out that rich, nutty flavor of the tahini. We're gonna season it up a little bit and stir it up to check where the consistency's at after adding the lemon juice. Now the flavor is there. I'm gonna add a touch more lemon, and then I'm just gonna adjust the consistency with a little bit of water at a time. We want it to be thin enough to be able to dip the Arayes into, but thick enough for it to cling to whatever is being dipped into it. Just until the point where it's nice and thick but silky. Pinch more salt. Then I'm gonna put it into my final bowl that I'm gonna serve the Arayes with. This will be seasoned with some more harissa and za'atar before we serve the Arayes. Just gonna put this in the fridge until we're ready to use it. Now we can take our meat and stuff it into the pitas. We just need to take our pitas and cut them in half. And then you've got a little hole to stuff the meat into. Now you can make your own pitas, of course, and that's probably the best thing to do. But in my research, the pita situation out there ain't great. So if you do find yourself in a position where they might be a little dry, you can take a damp paper towel, wrap them up, and just for like 10-15 seconds, get a little steam going to make them pliable, just so they don't tear when you fill the pitas. Then they're just a little more pliable. Now I'm just gonna take about a 1/4 of the meat, maybe that much. Now because we need to be delicate to avoid tearing the pita, I fill it in 2 stages. I put a little bit down in the bottom to make sure all the crevices at the bottom of the pita are filled up, and then I throw the rest in. Make sure that meat sort of meets the edge of the pita so that it'll make good contact with the griddle, and then just squeeze it flat and make sure it's nice and uniform. And then we're gonna take a knife and we're gonna cut that in half. Use the knife to smooth out the edges, and then that's ready to sear. And then we can go ahead and fill up the rest of the pitas. Now we need to cook these little pockets of meat. And to avoid having to do them in a bunch of batches, I'm gonna be using one of my favorite new cooking tools, the carbon steel griddle by our sponsor today, Made In. The Made In griddle brings restaurant quality cooking right to your home. Made in Sweden with the same professional grade carbon steel that the best chefs in the world use in their restaurants. It can be used outdoors on a grill, over a direct open flame, or indoors on a gas, electric, or induction cooktop. The griddle is pre-seasoned and naturally non-stick, so you're ready to start using right out of the box without any chemicals or coating. And just like cast iron, the more you use and season your carbon steel griddle, the more it'll develop a naturally non-stick seasoning on top. And it's heat safe up to 1200 degrees, perfect for cooking over open flames or on a ripping hot stove top. You can make fluffy pancakes, steaks with a perfect crust, burgers, and so much more. And for things like burgers, you've got the Maiden Griddle Press. Crafted from high-performance stainless steel, it can withstand up to 800 degrees of heat. And like a restaurant flat top, the grill offers ample cooking space covering 2 burners, so you can do a lot at once, like searing a batch of these Arayes in one go. So to pick up one of these griddles for yourself and all of the amazing kitchen tools that Maiden has to offer, click the link in my description and let's get these babies seared. Now I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. We're gonna cook these in 2 stages. The first stage is seared on the griddle, the next is cooked through in the oven. And we've got our griddle nice and hot at around 380 degrees, which is the perfect temperature to sear the Arayes. Brush them lightly on all sides with oil and then place them on the griddle to sear one of those sides of the meat. And we just want to sear them till they're a nice brown, remembering that we have a little bit of that pomegranate syrup in there, so there will be a fine line between browned and burnt. So don't step away, stay on top of these. Once browned, sear that second side of meat the same way. Once both sides of the meat are browned, then we're just going to quickly toast each side of the pita and then remove them from the griddle, stand them up on a sheet tray, and then place them in the oven for 10 to 12 minutes to finish cooking them through. And while they bake, I can clean the griddle, which takes no time at all. Just throw a little bit of water on it while it's hot, scrape up all the bits, and then wipe it clean. It does not even touch my sink. After about 10 minutes, we pull them out and they should be nicely browned, cooked through, and extremely juicy. Before we plate the Arayes, we're gonna just season up our tahini sauce with some more harissa and a little bit more of that za'atar, and just a little bit of flaky salt. And that's the beauty of this dish. The pita absorbs the juice and the fat of the meat and retains it. So the end result is an incredibly juicy product that makes this thing so delicious. It's perfect. Middle Eastern meatballs stuffed into a pita, gets a little bit crispy, the meat's flavorful and juicy, and that little tahini harissa dip, it's the perfect marriage. Let me know in the comments if you've ever seen a dish or you're gonna make this. The recipe's gonna be down in the description. That's all that I have today. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself and go feed yourself.